I should have known something was wrong the moment Micah Davidson smiled. Not the polite smile he usually gave during diplomatic briefings, not the nervous one he wore when Ambassador Threlix corrected his Valorian pronunciation. This was different. This smile had edges, the kind that said he was about to do something spectacularly stupid, and somehow we'd all survive to tell the story. My name is Quentha. I'm Thracian. 6 limbs, deep violet fur, 3 doctoral degrees in xenobiology, and apparently not smart enough to recognize a class 4 narcotic when it's brewing 2 feet from my face. For 3 months, I'd been meeting Micah on the observation deck of the Celestial Harmony. He was the Coalition's first human liaison officer, a title that mostly meant the guy who accidentally causes interstellar incidents and somehow makes friends anyway. He'd propositioned the Andraxian ambassador with the wrong tentacle gesture. He'd tried to shake hands with a Valorian and nearly shattered their crystalline structure. He'd called our captain dude during a formal ceremony. And every single time, he'd smiled that same dangerous smile and said, "My bad." The species survived. Micah stayed employed. I started thinking humans were just enthusiastically incompetent. I was so wrong. Your species' sleep patterns fascinate me, Zixthar chimed beside me, their crystalline facets refracting the starlight in mesmerizing patterns. 4 rest cycles in a single rotation period? Inefficient. Micah grinned and reached into his personal storage compartment. That's because you've never experienced the magic of caffeine, my friend. He pulled out a small machine, black, compact, innocuous. The kind of thing you'd glance at and forget immediately. I'm a xenobiologist. I've cataloged 847 species dietary requirements. I've published papers on Krell digestive enzymes. I've isolated proteins that only exist in zero-gravity environments. And I looked at Micah's little machine and thought, how cute. The human brought a beverage maker. Kaleth's tentacles kept organizing data tablets. Zixthar continued explaining Valorian efficiency metrics. I went back to my research notes on Thracian reproduction cycles. None of us were paying attention. That machine started hissing, and then the smell hit. What is that scent? All 6 of my nostrils flared involuntarily. My neural receptors fired in patterns I didn't recognize. The aroma was rich, dark, intoxicating in a way that made my fur stand on end, not in a bad way. In a this might be the best thing I've ever experienced way. Zixthar's entire crystalline structure began pulsing. It smells like... I don't have words. What is this? Even Kaleth stopped working. All 9 tentacles froze, mid-organization. That should have been my first warning. Andraxians don't stop multitasking, ever. It's biologically impossible for them to focus on just one thing. But there we were, 3 highly educated scientists, doctorates, published research, decades of combined experience, completely mesmerized by whatever was coming out of Micah's innocent little machine. He held up a small cup filled with black liquid that steamed like volcanic vents. His smile had gone from dangerous to downright predatory. This is coffee, the lifeblood of human civilization. He gestured at the machine like a proud parent. Want to try? What I didn't know yet was that the aroma alone, just the molecules floating through the air, was already poisoning us. What I didn't know was that in exactly 4 minutes, Zixthar would shatter. What I didn't know was that humans had built their entire society around a compound so lethal it would be banned on 96% of coalition worlds. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Micah, Kaleth said slowly, tentacles resuming their organizing with noticeably less coordination. What exactly is in this coffee? Micah opened his mouth to answer. The world turned red. 3 security drones materialized from the ceiling so fast, I barely saw them move. Crimson warning lights bathed our table in apocalyptic glow. The pleasant hum of the observation deck shattered into blaring alarms. that made my fur vibrate at frequencies that hurt. Attention, Class 4 chemical compound detected. Initiating quarantine protocols. I've lived for 43 cycles. I've survived asteroid storms, diplomatic negotiations with the Krell Dominion, and that one time, the ship's gravity generator failed mid-meal. I had never heard that particular alarm before. Class 4 compounds are things you learn about in theoretical xenochemistry courses. Things that exist only in military laboratories and restricted research facilities. Things governments use to commit genocide. Things specifically designed to kill as many beings as possible, as efficiently as possible. And Micah had just brewed one at our breakfast table, using a machine small enough to fit in a storage compartment. Humans! The observation deck erupted into chaos. A Krell diplomat knocked over 3 chairs, trying to reach the exit. Someone's beverage container shattered against the viewport. Species I couldn't even name scattered in every direction, some of them abandoning limbs just to move faster. Bulkheads began sealing with pneumatic hisses that sounded like the ship itself was screaming. Emergency protocols I didn't know existed activated simultaneously. The artificial gravity flickered. Twice. Cleth's tentacles wrapped around my torso and yanked me backwards so hard I heard one of my shoulder joints pop. My data tablet clattered to the floor, forgotten, as a full hazmat team burst through the main doors. 6 figures. Full environmental suits, independent oxygen supplies, radiation shielding, the kind of protection you wear when handling antimatter or weaponized pathogens. 4. Coffee. The team leader's voice crackled through his suit's external speakers. Sir, step away from the stimulant. We have protocols for Class 4 narcotics. Micah stood there, that small cup still in his hand, looking genuinely confused. It's just coffee. Micah, Kaleth said, and their voice had gone completely flat, emotionless. The way Andraxians sound when they're calculating survival probabilities and don't like the results. The chemical compound you've synthesized, this coffee, registers as a neuroaccelerant strong enough to cause cardiac failure in 87% of known species. Their tentacles were trembling now, actually trembling. The concentration of 1,3,7-trimethylxanthine is lethal. My 6 hearts stopped. All of them. At once. Because I had been breathing that scent for the last 5 minutes, breathing it deeply, enjoying it. My nostrils were still flared, still processing those intoxicating molecules floating through the air. I looked down at my fur, still violet, still attached. I didn't feel poison. Then I looked at Zixthar. Their crystalline structure had started vibrating at frequencies that shouldn't be possible, frequencies that meant cellular breakdown, catastrophic systemic failure, the Valorian equivalent of every organ shutting down simultaneously. How are you still standing? The hazmat leader demanded. Scanners pointed at Micah. And Micah, raised that cup to his lips and took a long, deliberate sip. His eyes never left the hazmat team. He swallowed, smiled. Because I'm human. We drink this stuff every morning. The silence that followed was deafening. Sometimes, he added, 3 or 4 times a day. Zixthar collapsed. Their crystalline body hit the floor with a sound like a chandelier exploding. Facets scattered across the deck. Some of them were still pulsing, still alive, but separated, shattered, wrong. The medical team swarmed immediately, and all I could think was, he didn't even touch it. Zixthar never touched the coffee. That's when I realized. The aroma alone was killing us. And Micah? Micah was still drinking. Hi guys, welcome to HFY Sci-Fi Stories. Enjoying the story? Do like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It helps us bring more amazing stories for your enjoyment. Now back to the story. The medical team had Zixthar in a containment field within seconds. I watched pieces of my friend floating in sterile suspension, their crystalline structure trying desperately to reformulate. Failing. Reformulating. Failing again. Severe stimulant poisoning, one of the medics announced, their scanner shrieking readings I couldn't process. Neural pathways are misfiring at 340% normal capacity. This shouldn't be survivable. But Zixthar was surviving. Barely. Their facets kept pulsing in patterns that spelled out Valorian distress signals. The same 3 words, over and over. Help me, help me, help me. I couldn't move. Kaleth's tentacles were still wrapped around my torso, holding me back from the contamination zone that used to be our breakfast table, holding me back from Micah, who was still holding that cup. Put down the weapon, the hazmat leader shouted. Micah looked at his coffee, looked at the hazmat team, looked at Zixthar's shattered body floating in medical suspension. He took another sip. It's not a weapon, he said calmly. It's breakfast. A medical scanner drone materialized beside Micah, bathing him in blue diagnostic light. Numbers scrolled across its display faster than I could read them. Heart rate, neural activity, metabolic function. Every single reading was elevated to levels that should have killed him minutes ago. The hazmat leader stared at the scanner, then at Micah, then at the scanner again, like maybe it was broken. Maybe this was all some terrible equipment malfunction. Impossible, he whispered. How are you still standing? How are you still conscious? Micah shrugged. I'm human. This is my 3rd cup today. 3rd cup. 3rd. The hazmat leader's legs actually buckled. One of his team caught him before he hit the floor. You've ingested this 3 times? Kaleth's voice had gone up an octave. In a single rotation period? That's the cumulative toxicity alone should have. Your organs should be liquefying. I mean, I feel fine, Micah offered. Little jittery, maybe, but that's normal. Jittery is not normal when you've consumed enough poison to kill a battalion. I would have laughed if I wasn't absolutely terrified. This was peak human logic. Poisoned? Nah, just jittery. Organs failing? Nah, just need a snack. Accidentally committing chemical warfare? Whoops, my bad. What I didn't know yet, what none of us knew, was that the coffee itself was just the beginning. The real nightmare was already spreading through the ship's ventilation system, riding on air currents we couldn't see, reaching crew members we'd never met. But I'm not there yet. That's when I felt it, a tingling in my extremities, all 6 limbs, going numb simultaneously. My vision blurred at the edges like someone had smeared grease across my optical receptors. One of my hearts started beating erratically, the primary one, the one that regulated all the others. Kaleth? I managed, my voice sounding distant even to myself. Kaleth, I don't feel... My fur started falling out, not shedding, not molting. Falling out, in clumps, in patches, like my body had suddenly decided that fur was optional and honestly kind of embarrassing. I watched violet tufts drift to the floor in slow motion, each one taking a piece of my dignity with it. This was how I was going to die. Not in glorious scientific discovery, not in the pursuit of knowledge, but because I got too close to a human's morning beverage. My dissertation committee was going to have words about this. We have another one, someone shouted. Thracian female, critical condition. The world tilted sideways. Or maybe I tilted, hard to tell when 3 of your 6 hearts have stopped beating, and you're molting like a particularly anxious bird. Kaleth lowered me to the floor with unexpected gentleness. Stay with me, Quentha. The medical team is... They stopped mid-sentence. All 9 tentacles went rigid, completely still. Andraxians don't freeze. They're biologically incapable of stopping movement. Their neural systems require constant motion to function properly. Freezing means system failure. Freezing means death. Kaleth? I whispered. One of their tentacles spasmed, just one. A single violent contraction that looked wrong in ways I didn't have words for. The aerosolized particles, they said, each word coming slower than the last. Their usually efficient voice had gone thick, sluggish. We've been breathing it. The molecular structure is small enough to suspend in air indefinitely. Oh no. Oh no. The observation deck's ventilation system had been running the whole time. The same system designed to cycle fresh air throughout decks 4 through 9. The same system that connected to life support conduits spanning 3 entire sections of the celestial harmony. We hadn't just poisoned ourselves, we'd poisoned everyone. Ship-wide alarms started blaring, different ones this time. The kind reserved for hull breaches and reactor failures and other catastrophic events that ended with everyone dying screaming. A Krell navigator collapsed 3 tables away, their exoskeleton making sounds like cracking ice. A Zenthari engineer clutched their thorax and made noises I didn't know Zenthari could make, high-pitched keening that their translators couldn't process. Someone's communication implant started malfunctioning, reciting what sounded like funeral rites in a language that had been dead for 6 centuries. Or maybe it wasn't malfunctioning. Maybe they were just that convinced they were dying. Honestly, fair. The observation deck had transformed into a disaster zone. Medical teams swarmed between casualties. Containment fields glowed everywhere I looked. Someone had deployed emergency oxygen supplies, even though the air was fine. Well, fine, except for the coffee molecules actively killing everyone. And Micah? Micah stood in the center of the chaos, looking around with an expression of dawning horror, like he'd just realized that maybe, possibly, his innocent morning ritual had consequences. I didn't, he started. I swear I didn't know. 43 crew members down, the hazmat leader reported into his comm, his voice shaking. Correction, 51. Correction. He stopped counting. His scanner was lighting up with casualty reports, faster than he could read them. Decks we'd never even visited. Species who'd never been near the observation deck. All of them showing symptoms of stimulant poisoning. All of them exposed to aerosolized coffee. Full quarantine, he finally said. Seal decks 4 through 9. Deploy atmospheric scrubbers to every affected section. Nobody in or out until we can confirm the air is safe to breathe. I tried to stand. Failed spectacularly. Tried again. My remaining hearts were beating in patterns that made no biological sense. 2 of my limbs wouldn't respond to neural commands. The parts of my fur that hadn't fallen out yet were turning gray. Gray. Throssian fur doesn't turn gray unless you're actively dying. A shadow fell over me. I looked up through increasingly blurred vision to see Micah crouching beside me, his face twisted with guilt so profound it almost looked like physical pain. Quentha, hey, stay with me. You're going to be fine. The medical team will get away from her. Kaleth's tentacles lashed out with speed I didn't know they possessed, striking Micah hard enough to knock the coffee cup from his hand. It shattered on the deck, black liquid spreading like an oil slick across pristine floors. Even spilled, it looked dangerous. You're contaminated, Kaleth shrieked, actually shrieked. Everything about you is contaminated. Your breath, your skin, your very presence is toxic. Micah raised his hands, backing away slowly. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Kaleth's voice had gone shrill enough to hurt. You brought a Class 4 narcotic onto a diplomatic vessel. You weaponized your morning routine. Zixthar might never reformulate. Quentha is molting. It's just coffee, Micah said weakly. There is no just about genocide in a cup. The medical team descended on me with scanners and injectors and instruments I didn't recognize. Someone jabbed something into my primary cardiovascular cluster. The pain was exquisite, white hot, all-consuming. Then everything went blissfully, mercifully numb. The last thing I saw before unconsciousness took me was Dr. Velkun, the ship's chief medical officer and possibly the most terrifying Zarath in the entire coalition, storming through the doors with an expression that promised Micah's death would be slow painful, and thoroughly documented for scientific posterity. And somehow, I knew that when I woke up, everything I thought I understood about humans was about to change forever. I woke up in medical bay to the sound of someone arguing about my internal organs. Complete cardiovascular collapse in the secondary and tertiary heart clusters. The primary is functioning at 34% capacity. Her fur loss indicates systemic toxin saturation. By all medical logic, she should be dead. And yet, she's not. That second voice belonged to Dr. Velkun. I'd know that clinical, terrifying calm anywhere. She was the kind of doctor who could tell you that you had 6 hours to live while simultaneously taking notes for her research paper about your death. I tried to open my eyes, managed to get one working. The other seemed to have declared independence and was pursuing its own agenda. The medical bay looked like a war zone. Every regeneration pod occupied, every scanner running overtime, every medical professional moving with the controlled panic of people who'd stopped expecting anyone to survive. And there, floating in a specialized containment field, was Zixthar, still fractured, still broken. But their facets had stopped pulsing distress signals, which I chose to interpret as progress rather than death. "She's awake," someone shouted. A medical assistant materialized beside my pod, looking at me like I'd just risen from the grave, which, medically speaking, I kind of had. What I didn't know yet was that waking up made me special. Out of 67 poisoned crew members, only 12 of us had regained consciousness. The rest were still fighting for their lives, and I should have been with them. Dr. Velkun's compound eyes appeared over my pod. "You've been unconscious for 6 hours. Your body has been attempting to metabolize 137-trimethylxanthine with limited success? Am I dying? Statistically, yes. Your odds of survival were 12%, practically." She tilted her head in that unsettling way Zerath do. "You're defying every projection. You should be dead. You're not. I find that fascinating." Should I be writing this down? This feels like it's building to bad news. One of her mandibles twitched, the Zerath equivalent of a smile. Coffee has been reclassified as a Class 4 restricted substance across all coalition territories. Possession carries a minimum sentence of 15 cycles. However, you survived, which makes you medically significant. I've always wanted to be significant. Just, preferably not, because I almost died from secondhand breakfast. Kaleth groaned from the pod next to mine. 3 of their tentacles were suspended in regeneration sleeves. The other 6 twitched, like they couldn't remember how tentacles were supposed to work. "Tell me," Kaleth whispered, "that I hallucinated the part about humans drinking poison recreationally." "You did not hallucinate that part." "Then tell me the human is locked in a containment cell where he can't accidentally commit chemical warfare with his lunch." "About that," Dr. Velkun said, Kaleth's functioning tentacles seized up, "I don't like how you said 'about that.' That's the tone medical professionals use before telling you that your organs are in the wrong places. Micah is contained in Observation Room 7, behind 4 inches of reinforced transparent aluminum. Independent life support. Armed guards." Dr. Velkun paused. "The guards are mostly symbolic. The real question is whether they're keeping him in or keeping everyone else out." I managed to prop myself up on 2 working limbs. "People want to kill him?" "He poisoned 67 crew members. The count keeps rising with his breakfast beverage." Dr. Velkun pulled up a holographic display showing casualty reports. The Andraxian delegation filed formal charges. The Valorian council wants him tried for chemical warfare. 3 different species requested his extradition. She dismissed the display with a violent gesture. "And yet here I am, preventing all of it." "Why?" "Because that human is medically impossible." She pulled up Micah's biometric data during the incident. The readings made no sense. Heart rate elevated but stable. Neural activity increased but controlled. Every system operating at levels that should have caused catastrophic failure. He didn't just survive. His performance improved. Faster reactions, enhanced cognition, better coordination. Her mandibles clicked rapidly. He metabolized a Class 4 narcotic and used it as a performance enhancer. Kaleth made a sound like a deflating balloon. That's not how biochemistry works. It's not how our biochemistry works, Dr. Velkun corrected. Human biochemistry operates on different principles, principles that might revolutionize medicine. I saw where this was going. You want to study him. I want to understand how his species conquered a death world by being too stubborn to recognize poison. She gestured at the impossible vitals. Military applications would change galactic warfare, but medical applications, neurological treatments, cardiac therapies, metabolic disorders we've considered incurable for centuries. Her voice took on an almost reverent quality. That human's biochemistry might solve problems we've spent millennia trying to fix. He accidentally hospitalized 67 people and revealed that humans might be the most medically significant species we've encountered. That's when I realized humans hadn't just survived Earth. They'd survived by turning everything that should kill them into fuel. And the rest of us were about to learn exactly how terrifying that was. What about Zixthar? I asked, looking at my friend's fractured form. Stable. Critical, but stable. Their family, however, Dr. Velkun's mandibles clicked. They've submitted formal documentation requesting Micah's execution. The medical bay tilted. Zixthar would never. Zixthar is unconscious. Their family is less forgiving. She pulled up legal documents. They're arguing that Micah represents an existential threat, that his presence endangers interspecies cooperation, that his species is fundamentally incompatible with civilized society. He was just making breakfast. Ignorance isn't a defense when the body count exceeds 50. Dr. Velkun's voice softened. But I don't think they'll execute him. He's too valuable alive. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. Kaleth's tentacles spasmed violently enough to trigger alarms. So, our options are execute the human or study how he survives, drinking weapons-grade stimulants. Those are terrible options. Welcome to interspecies diplomacy, Dr. Velkun said dryly, where every decision is terrible and everyone's angry about it. The medical bay doors burst open. A Valorian security officer strode in with aggressive purpose. Dr. Velkun, the council has reached a decision regarding the human. Every conscious being held their breath. They're not pressing charges. Silence, complete, absolute silence. They're offering him a job. Cleth's tentacles seized so violently that 3 medical staff had to restrain them. Alarms shrieked. Scanners went haywire. Someone dropped an entire tray of medical instruments. What? Cleth shrieked. He poisoned 67 people and they're giving him employment? The security officer's facets shifted to amusement. Head of the new Human Resilience Research Initiative, effective immediately, pending his agreement to use his coffee maker only in sealed laboratory conditions. Dr. Velkun's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. I told them he was valuable. This is insane, I whispered. Welcome, the security officer said, to working with humans. And from his observation cell, I knew Micah was probably smiling that dangerous smile again. The one that said he was about to do something spectacularly stupid. The one that somehow always worked out. The one that would change everything. They let me visit Micah 3 days later, after my fur had grown back enough that I didn't look like a molting disaster, and my hearts had stopped trying to beat in different time signatures. The observation room was exactly as Dr. Velkun described. 4 inches of reinforced transparent aluminum. Independent life support. Two armed guards who looked at me like I was about to smuggle in contraband coffee beans. Which, honestly, fair assessment given recent events. Micah sat on a bench inside, still wearing the same clothes from the incident. He looked up when I entered the viewing area, and that dangerous smile flickered across his face before dying completely. Quentha, I'm so sorry. I never meant. I know. I pressed one hand against the transparent barrier. I know. You didn't. They told me Zixthar might not reformulate properly. That Kaleth lost function in 3 tentacles. That you, his voice cracked, that you almost died because I wanted coffee. Technically, I almost died because I was too curious about your death beverage. There's a difference. He laughed. It sounded broken. The council offered me a job. Can you believe that? I accidentally commit chemical warfare and they give me a promotion. The entire ship heard. Kaleth's screaming registered on seismic sensors. Several crew members thought we were under attack. Again. That got a slightly less broken laugh. Are they okay? Kaleth? Zixthar? Kaleth is in physical therapy relearning how to use 3 tentacles. They're furious, which the medical staff says is a good sign. I paused. Zixthar is still unconscious, reformulating. The doctors say it could take weeks, maybe months. Micah's face crumpled. Their family wants me dead, don't they? Their family wants a lot of things, most of them involving your public execution and possibly launching your remains into a star. I tried for lightness and failed. The Valorian delegation is very thorough about their revenge fantasies. What I couldn't tell him yet was that Zixthar's family had hired 3 different law firms to argue for Micah's extradition, that the council was receiving death threats on his behalf, that half the coalition thought studying him was brilliant, while the other half thought it was like keeping a live grenade as a pet. The vote to spare his life had passed by exactly 1 vote. 1. Are you going to take it? I asked. The job? Micah looked at his hands, at the transparent walls, at the guards watching his every movement. Do I have a choice? It's either become head of human resilience research or spend the rest of my life in a cell, or, the execution thing. Those are terrible options. Yeah, well, I have a talent for terrible options. It's kind of my thing. He stood, walking to the barrier until we were separated by just 4 inches of material designed to contain explosive decompression. They want to study me, run tests, figure out how humans metabolize things that kill everyone else, turn me into a walking science experiment, and I hate it. But if it means nobody else gets hurt because of what I can safely ingest. He pressed his hand against the barrier opposite mine. Then maybe it's worth it. I wanted to tell him he was being noble, self-sacrificing, brave. Instead, I told him the truth. You're going to revolutionize galactic medicine and absolutely hate every second of it, aren't you? That got a real smile. Small, but real. Yeah, probably. But hey, at least I'll have job security. How many people can say their career is based on not dying from breakfast? Just you, literally only you. One of the guards shifted, their weapon making a sound that suggested our time was running out. But before they could end the visit, Micah leaned closer to the barrier, his expression going serious. Quentha, I need you to promise me something. Depends on the something. If they try to weaponize this, if the military gets involved and starts talking about super soldiers or combat stimulants or any of that nightmare fuel. His eyes were intense, desperate. You'll stop them. You'll make sure whatever we discover gets used to help people, not hurt them. My fur rippled in patterns I couldn't control. That's a big promise. You're the only one I trust to keep it. And just like that, I went from poisoning victim to co-conspirator in whatever insane project Micah was about to start. Because of course I did. Because humans have this terrible habit of making you care about them right before they do something catastrophically stupid. The guards moved in, signaling the end of visiting hours. I stepped back from the barrier. I'll think about it, I lied. We both knew I'd already decided. I made it exactly 3 corridors before Dr. Velkuhn intercepted me. Walk with me, she said. Not a request. Never a request with Dr. Velkuhn. We walked in silence through the medical wing, past regeneration pods still occupied by coffee casualties. 17 crew members remained critical. 43 had recovered enough for discharge. 7 were in what the medical staff delicately called uncertain status. We stopped at Zixthar's containment field. Their crystalline structure was reformulating, but slowly. So slowly. Some facets had reconnected. Others floated in suspension, unable to find their proper place. The human asked you to be his ethical oversight, Dr. Velkuhn said. Not a question. How did you? I've been monitoring his containment, audio only, standard protocol for high-risk detainees. Her mandibles clicked. He's smarter than he looks. Is that why you're here? To tell me to stay away from the dangerous human? Quite the opposite. She turned from Zixthar's containment to face me fully. I'm here to officially invite you to join the Human Resilience Research Initiative as Micah's primary research partner and, apparently, his conscience. My heart did that unsynced thing again. You want me to study the substance that almost killed me? I want you to help us understand why you survived when statistical models said you shouldn't. She pulled up a holographic display. 12 crew members regained consciousness within 72 hours. 43 total survived. Those numbers mean something. Some species metabolized the compound better than others. Some showed unexpected resilience, and some, like humans, don't even register it as poison. I finished. Exactly. Her eyes gleamed with scientific fervor. If we can isolate the factors that determine toxicity versus tolerance, we could develop treatments for conditions we've never been able to address. Neural disorders, cardiovascular conditions, metabolic failures. Or we could accidentally create new ways to kill people more efficiently. That's why Micah asked you to keep us honest. Dr. Velkuhn's mandibles softened. I've spent 3 decades in medical research. I've seen what happens when science becomes weaponized, when breakthrough treatments become battlefield advantages. I don't want that for this project. What about Zixthar's family? The Valorian delegation? They're not going to just let this happen. Let me worry about the politics. You worry about keeping the human alive and the research ethical. She transferred files to my personal device. Your official assignment starts tomorrow. Lab 7, 0800 hours. Bring questions and strong ethical boundaries. She started to leave, then paused. Oh, and Quentha. Micah has requested permission to demonstrate proper coffee preparation in a controlled environment for educational purposes. My first stood completely on end. Absolutely not. It's for science. It's for chaos. The demonstration would be conducted in a fully sealed laboratory, ventilated directly to external space, full hazmat protocols, medical team on standby. Her mandibles clicked in amusement. He's promised to use minimal quantities and keep his consumption to approved levels. There are approved levels now? The Council established preliminary guidelines this morning. Humans are permitted up to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day under supervised conditions. Micah's been drinking approximately 300 milligrams per cup. I did the math. My fur went gray again. He's been consuming near lethal doses multiple times daily and calling it normal. Welcome to human biology. It only gets stranger from here. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't have known, was that Micah's coffee demonstration would attract attention from species I'd never heard of. That within 2 weeks, We'd have delegations requesting human consultants for medical research. That within a month, the council would be debating whether to reclassify humans from recently discovered species to strategic medical asset. That coffee was just the beginning. Kaleth found me still standing outside Zixthar's containment an hour later, watching fractured crystal slowly, painfully reform. "You're going to do it," they said. Not a question. Their functioning tentacles were wrapped in support braces, but they moved with increasing confidence. "I think I have to. You almost died." "I know." "He almost killed 67 people with breakfast." "I know." "This is a terrible idea." "I know." Kaleth's tentacles wrapped around my shoulders in what passed for an Andraxian hug. "When this inevitably goes wrong and Micah accidentally poisons another 3 decks with his afternoon snack, I'm going to say I told you so. I'm counting on it. Also, I'm coming with you." I pulled back. "What? You think I'm letting you study death beverages without supervision? Someone needs to document your poor life choices. Might as well be me." Their tentacles tightened. "Besides, I've already almost died once from human cuisine. What's a second time?" Because if I was going to help a human revolutionize medicine while trying not to die from his breakfast routine, I was definitely going to need my friends to remind me how stupid this was, frequently, possibly hourly, and apparently, Kaleth was volunteering for the job. Lab 7 was designed for studying hazardous materials, triple sealed doors, independent ventilation, enough safety protocols to make a paranoid Andraxian feel comfortable, which meant it was barely adequate for watching Micah make coffee. "This is insane," Kaleth muttered beside me, all 9 tentacles wrapped around various safety railings. "We're voluntarily exposing ourselves to the substance that hospitalized us. We've learned nothing." "We've learned plenty," I corrected. "We've learned that humans are terrifyingly resilient. We've learned that coffee is classified as a Class 4 narcotic. We've learned that the council makes questionable employment decisions." I was hoping we'd learn to run away from danger, not toward it. Dr. Velkoon appeared beside us, mandibles clicking in what I'd learned to recognize as barely contained excitement. "The human is ready. Medical team is standing by. Atmospheric scrubbers are at maximum capacity. Containment protocols are active." Through the observation window, Micah stood in the center of the sealed laboratory, wearing what looked like normal clothes instead of a hazmat suit. Because of course he was. Why would a human need protection from their own breakfast? His coffee maker sat on a sterile metal table, looking innocent and deadly simultaneously. "Before we begin," Dr. Velkoon announced through the intercom, "I want to establish baseline readings. Micah, please describe your typical coffee consumption patterns." Micah looked directly at the observation window. At us. That dangerous smile was back. Typically, I'd have a cup when I wake up, another around mid-morning, sometimes one after lunch, maybe another in the afternoon if I'm tired." Kaleth's tentacles went rigid. "That's 4 cups, 4 times the dose that shattered Zixthar. Sometimes 5 if it's a rough day," Micah added helpfully. "5, 6 if I'm pulling an all-nighter." I had to physically restrain Kaleth from activating the emergency shutdown. What I was beginning to understand, what the numbers were showing us, was that humans hadn't just adapted to survive on a death world. They'd adapted to thrive on things that would kill us. Their entire civilization ran on compounds we'd classify as weapons. "For today's demonstration," Dr. Velkoon continued, her voice professionally calm despite Kaleth's panic, "please prepare 1 standard cup and consume it as you normally would." Micah nodded and started the machine. The hiss of brewing coffee made every alarm in my nervous system scream. Kaleth whimpered. 3 medical staff checked their scanners like the readings might have changed in the last 10 seconds. The aroma started spreading. Even through triple-sealed containment, Even with atmospheric scrubbers running at maximum, I could smell it. Rich, dark, intoxicating. My nostrils flared involuntarily. My fur rippled in patterns that meant my body remembered what that scent had done to me. Atmospheric analysis, Dr. Velkun called out. A technician checked their display. Caffeine concentration in the lab, 847 parts per million and rising. Concentration in observation room, $0 or else 3 parts per million. Scrubbers are working. For now, Kaleth muttered darkly. Micah poured the coffee into a small cup. Steam rose like toxic fumes. He raised it to his lips and drank. Just drank it. Like it was water. Like it wasn't a class 4 narcotic. Like his cardiovascular system wasn't being flooded with enough stimulant to kill most of the observation team. Medical scanners went wild. Heart rate increasing, someone called out. Neural activity spiking. Metabolic function accelerating. Is he in distress? Dr. Velkun asked. Micah lowered his cup and smiled. This is really good coffee, actually. You guys have great water filtration on this ship. He was complimenting the water quality while overdosing on poison. This was my life now. Cognitive function, Dr. Velkun pressed. A neurological specialist checked their readings. Enhanced. Response time decreased by 17%. Pattern recognition improved. Memory recall elevated. They looked up, confused. He's better? Better, Kaleth repeated faintly. The poison makes him better. Of course it does. Why wouldn't it? I watched Micah take another sip, completely relaxed, while the medical team documented his impossible biology. This was what Dr. Velkun wanted to understand. This was what could revolutionize medicine. This was absolutely terrifying. Micah, I said through the intercom, how do you feel? Honestly, great, little more alert, ready to tackle the day. He glanced at the observation window. Is this helping? The demonstration? It's helping us understand that humans are medically insane, Kaleth said. What Kaleth means, I corrected, is that you're providing valuable data on human metabolic tolerance. So yes, medically insane. Dr. Velkun was taking notes faster than I could track. The implications are staggering. If we can isolate the genetic factors that allow humans to process methylxanthines safely, we could develop treatments for dozens of neurological conditions. Or create super soldiers who don't need sleep, Kaleth added grimly. Which is why Quentha is here, ethics oversight. Dr. Velkun turned to me. Speaking of which, I need your opinion on the next phase. There's a next phase. We need to test tolerance across species, controlled microdoses, see if we can develop a therapeutic application that doesn't, hospitalize everyone. My fur stood on end. You want to poison more people, on purpose, for science. With full informed consent, medical supervision, and safety protocols, Dr. Velkun clarified. Starting with recovered coffee exposure survivors who showed better than expected resilience. That's us, Kaleth said. She means us. We're the guinea pigs. Research participants, Dr. Velkun corrected. Guinea pigs. I looked through the observation window at Micah, who was finishing his coffee and looking genuinely confused about why this was such a big deal. Then at the medical data showing his enhanced performance, then at Dr. Velkun's excited mandibles. This was the moment, the decision point. We could stop here, declare the demonstration complete, and never voluntarily expose ourselves to coffee again. Or we could take the next step into whatever medical revolution or disaster was waiting. What are the protocols? I heard myself ask. Kaleth's tentacles seized my arm. Quentha, no. Minimal dosing, Dr. Velkun said quickly. 1/100th of what Micah just consumed. Medical team present. Full emergency response ready. First sign of distress, we stop immediately. 1/100th the dose, I repeated. That's still 1/100th of what shattered Zixthar. Zixthar received uncontrolled atmospheric exposure. This would be precise, measured, monitored. Her eyes gleamed. And it might give us the data we need to help them recover faster. That got my attention. You think coffee research could help Zixthar? I think understanding how different species process methylxanthines could help us develop targeted neural stimulation therapies, which Zixthar desperately needs. She pulled up their medical scan. Their reformation is stalling. Neural pathways aren't reconnecting properly. A controlled stimulant might jumpstart the process. Kaleth's grip loosened slightly. You're saying we could help them by drinking poison? I'm saying we might help them by understanding poison, Dr. Velkun corrected. But I need more data. I need to know how recovered survivors metabolize controlled doses. Through the observation window, Micah set down his empty cup. His biometric readings were already normalizing, still, elevated compared to baseline, but stable, healthy, enhanced. He'd turned poison into performance fuel, and we were about to figure out if anyone else could do the same. When? I asked. Dr. Velkun's mandibles clicked in triumph. Tomorrow, Lab 7, 0800 hours, bring courage and next of kin contact information. That last part better be a joke, Kaleth said. Mostly a joke, Dr. Velkun agreed. Which was exactly as reassuring as it sounded, which is to say, not at all. But if drinking 1/100th of a lethal dose could help Zixthar reformulate properly, I'd do it, even if it was the second stupidest decision I'd ever made, right after befriending a human who weaponized breakfast. I didn't sleep that night, not because of fear, though there was plenty of that, but because Kaleth kept sending me research articles about caffeine toxicity in non-human species, each one more horrifying than the last. Did you know, they messaged at 0300 hours, that the lethal dose for Thracians is estimated at 12 milligrams? You're volunteering to ingest 3 milligrams tomorrow. That's 25% of what could kill you. I'm aware, I typed back. Are you also aware that you're insane? Also aware. Good, just checking. At 0745 hours, I stood outside Lab 7, watching medical staff prepare enough emergency equipment to handle a small disaster. Kaleth appeared beside me, all 9 tentacles wrapped in fresh support braces. You don't have to do this, I said. Neither do you. Zixthar would tell us we're idiots and refuse to let us risk ourselves. Kaleth's tentacles tightened on the railing, which is why we're doing it while they're still unconscious and can't stop us. Dr. Velkun emerged from the lab, mandibles clicking in what I'd learned meant she was either excited or about to get someone killed. Possibly both. Ready? No, absolutely not, not even slightly. Yes, I lied. The lab looked different from yesterday. More medical equipment, more monitoring stations, more ways to document our potential deaths for scientific posterity. And there, in the corner, was Micah with his personal coffee maker, because apparently he couldn't go 2 hours without his performance-enhancing poison. Is he seriously making coffee right now? Kaleth asked. Standard morning routine, Dr. Velkun said. We're monitoring his baseline consumption patterns alongside the experimental protocols. So, he's drinking weapons-grade stimulants while we prepare to maybe die from diluted versions of the same substance? Correct. Just checking that we're all aware of the irony here. What I was beginning to understand was that this was humanity in a nutshell. They'd turned deadly compounds into daily rituals, then looked confused when the rest of us panicked about it. I entered the sealed lab. The door hissed shut behind me with finality. Micah handed me a container barely larger than a thimble. Clear liquid. Innocuous. Deadly. You don't have to do this, Micah said quietly, his own coffee cup steaming in his other hand. I know they're putting pressure on you. I want to help Zixthar. There might be other ways. This is the fastest. I raised the container. Through the observation window, I could see Kaleth's tentacles wrapped so tightly around the railing they'd bent the metal. If this works, we could help them recover. If it doesn't, well, the medical team has gotten very good at treating caffeine poisoning. That's not funny. Little bit funny. I drank before I could change my mind. The liquid was bitter, wrong. My body immediately tried to reject it. Then the caffeine hit my bloodstream. Oh, oh no. My heart's accelerated, all six suddenly beating in perfect synchronization for the first time since the incident. My vision sharpened. Colors became vivid. Sounds became distinct. I could hear individual conversations through soundproofing. Neural activity. Spiking, someone called. Heart rate at 140. Metabolic function increasing. Dr. Velkun's voice cut through. Quentha, report. How do you feel? I opened my mouth to say, fine. Instead, I can see sounds. Silence. You can see what? Sounds. They have colors. Your voice is purple. Kaleth's panic is orange. The scanners are making green ripples. I looked at my hands. Too many fingers. No, right number. But I could see inside them, bones and blood and individual cells moving. She's hallucinating, Kaleth announced. Aboard! Wait. Dr. Velkun's mandibles clicked rapidly. Quentha, are you in pain? Was I? My heart's beat fast but not struggling. Neural pathways fired rapidly but not misfiring. Everything was just more. Intensely, overwhelmingly more. No pain, just everything is very loud and bright, and I think I can taste time. Through my enhanced perception, I noticed Micah, calmly drinking his coffee, while the medical team panicked, while alarms beeped, while I hallucinated colors that didn't exist. He took another sip and gave me a thumbs up. A thumbs up, while I was potentially dying from 1/100th the dose he consumed daily. The human is drinking his coffee, I announced to no one in particular. During the medical emergency, that's very human. She's definitely hallucinating, Kaleth said. Synesthesia, Dr. Velkun corrected. Cross-wiring of sensory input. Quentha, can you perform basic motor functions? I raised all 6 limbs simultaneously in patterns that felt like dancing, but probably looked like seizures. Motor functions are excellent. I could run several marathons. Do we have marathons? What I understood then, through caffeine-enhanced neurons, was that humans lived like this. Not the hallucinations, but the enhancement, the heightened awareness, the perfect biological synchronization. This was normal for them. No wonder they conquered Earth. They were operating on a completely different level. The synesthesia faded after 10 minutes. Colors bled away. Sounds normalized. My hearts returned to their usual uncoordinated rhythm. The world became regular, boring almost. How do you feel? Dr. Velkun asked. Tired, really tired, but not dying. Better than expected. Your reformation was extraordinary. 10 minutes of 340% neural efficiency, perfect cardiovascular synchronization. If we can replicate this therapeutically, her mandibles hummed, we could stimulate neural reformation in patients like Zixthar. Kaleth's tentacles loosened. She survived. Told you. My turn. Every medical professional turned to stare. Absolutely not, Dr. Velkun said. We need to analyze results first. Quentha survived on 3 milligrams. I'll take 2, right now. Before I remember, this is stupid. Kaleth's tentacles were already moving toward the lab door. Kaleth's reaction was different. No synesthesia, just their tentacles moving impossibly fast, organizing invisible objects, processing non-existent data, calculating solutions to unasked problems. I can see the patterns, Kaleth whispered. Mathematical relationships everywhere. The hull's structural integrity has rhythm. Probability matrices are singing. Micah finished his coffee and started brewing another cup during Kaleth's enhanced cognition episode, while medical scanners shrieked. Is he making more? Kaleth shouted. their tentacles pointing accusingly through the observation window. "Second cup of the morning," Micah said cheerfully through the intercom. "Anyone else want some? Oh, wait, that would kill you. Never mind." "I hate humans so much right now," Kaleth announced to the universe. Dr. Velkun's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Different neurological structures, different responses, but both showed enhanced function. Both survived. The therapeutic applications are undeniable. What none of us knew then was that news of our survival would spread through the coalition, faster than rumors about the first incident. Within days, 14 species would request research participation. Within weeks, medical applications would be undeniable. Within months, caffeine would go from banned substance to controlled therapeutic compound. And humans would go from recently discovered species to strategic medical asset. All because Micah wanted coffee. Over the next 2 weeks, we refined the protocols, tested 6 more species, developed therapeutic dosing guidelines, started preliminary trials on neural reformation patients, started treatment on Zixthar. The day they reformed, truly reformed, I was in Lab 7 reviewing data when Dr. Velkun's message came through. Medical Bay. Now, bring Kaleth. We ran. Zixthar's containment field was down. Their crystalline structure was whole, not perfect. Some fractures remained. Some facets hadn't reconnected properly, but whole, complete, reformed, and conscious. Their facets pulsed in patterns I recognized. Confusion, recognition, disbelief. "Quentha? Kaleth?" Their voice came through clear if slightly fractured. "How long was I? What happened?" 2 weeks, I said. "You've been reformulating for 2 weeks. The coffee, I remember the coffee. Micah." Their structure rippled. "Is he in prison? Executed? Please tell me there were consequences." "He got a promotion," Kaleth said. Silence. "He what?" "Head of Human Resilience Research Initiative," I explained. "Turns out accidentally poisoning 67 crew members makes you medically significant." "That's insane." "Yeah, we said that too. Multiple times. Didn't help." Zixthar's facets shifted through colors I'd never seen them produce before. "And you two?" "I'm receiving fragmented memory data about, did you drink coffee? Please tell me my neural reformation is creating false memories." "We drank highly diluted coffee derivatives under medical supervision," I corrected, "to develop the treatment that helped you reform." "You're insane. Both of you. Completely insane." "In our defense," Kaleth said, "it worked." Zixthar's structure rippled in what might have been laughter or horror or both. "Humans, they've made us all insane." "Little bit," I admitted. "What did my family do during my reformation?" "I'm detecting legal documentation in the data feeds." "They tried to have Micah executed," Kaleth said. "Multiple times. Very creative revenge fantasies. The Valorian legal system is impressively thorough about murder planning." "Oh, no." Dr. Velkun blocked them. "Said you'd want him alive when you woke up so you could yell at him yourself." Zixthar's facets pulsed rapidly. "I do want to yell at him. Where is he?" "Lab 7, I said. "Making his 3rd cup of coffee today." "Of course he is." Their structure settled into patterns I recognized as resigned acceptance. "Take me there. I need to tell the human who shattered me that I'm grateful he accidentally revolutionized medicine while trying to have breakfast." "That's very mature of you," I said. "I'm also going to tell him that if he ever brings uncontained coffee near me again, I'll reformulate his skeletal structure into abstract art. There's the Zixthar I know." We walked slowly, carefully, supporting Zixthar's still fragile structure through the corridors to Lab 7. Through the observation window, we could see Micah at his workstation, coffee cup in hand, reviewing medical data on therapeutic applications. He looked up when we entered, saw Zixthar. His face went through 6 different expressions in 2 seconds, landing somewhere between joy and terror. "You're awake," he said through the intercom. You're reformed. I'm so sorry. I never meant. I know, Sixth Star said. Their voice was steady, strong. I know you didn't, and I know you helped develop the treatment that saved me. So, I'm going to say thank you. Once. And then I'm going to establish very clear boundaries about your beverage choices around me. Micah smiled that dangerous smile. Fair enough. Also, your coffee is classified as a Class 4 restricted substance deadly to most known species. I'm aware, and you're drinking it right now. During this conversation, while I'm telling you it almost killed me. Would it help if I said I'm sorry? Not even slightly. Kaleth's tentacles wrapped around both of us. Welcome to working with humans, Zixthar. It only gets stranger from here. Through the observation window, Micah raised his coffee cup in a toast. To us, to science, to surviving his breakfast routine. And somewhere in the Coalition archives, someone was updating humanity's file from recently discovered species to the ones who accidentally revolutionized medicine with their morning beverage. And honestly, that felt about right. Thanks so much for sticking with Quentha, Kaleth, Zixthar, and Micah through this absolutely chaotic journey. If you loved watching these characters survive humanity's breakfast routine, please like this video. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you want more stories where humans accidentally revolutionize everything while just trying to get through their day. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's the most mundane human thing that would absolutely terrify an alien species? See you in the next story. Stay safe out there, and maybe warn your alien friends before offering them coffee.